Oh boy.
What?
Just I forgot to switch some things over on the Discord. Hi everybody! Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It wasn't too bad. It was just... I was over grabbing some information and forgot to move back to the proper video spot after grabbing the information. Anyway, yeah, it's July 6th. Hey, if you were in the U.S., a happy post-July 4th. Like, Joe were there, definitely. I didn't do anything major, so... But anyway,
No.
welcome. Today with us, we do have a special guest with us once again, Richard Johnson. Do you want to say hi?
Thank you for having me on.
Sure. So, our docket for today is, of course, we're going to have a talk with Richard here about what he does at Rattrap Productions, the games he's worked on, all that kind of stuff that we normally talk with our really awesome guests with. Even
somewhat awesome ones.
You're awesome enough. For our level, you're awesome enough.
I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not.
I think I was insulting ourselves, so I'm going to go with that. Anyway, and then we're going to hit up on a couple other topics. Joe wants to lead us in from information about the updates of Core Set 2020 and Magic Arena as they've rated together. Then I do want to talk about, of course, Fallout Wasteland Warfare. The RPG book is out now. I just want to quickly touch on that. We did hit on it previously. wizkids has a new game, Age of Dirt, that I want to talk about a little bit. There's a Pacific Rim Extinction, a board game. I like Pacific Rim and giant monsters, so that got me to talk about it. And there's one other, Days of Wonder. The people who did Ticket to Ride have a game called Deep Blue. And then, of course, we have our normal segments, which we'll hit up on, our week in tabletop, some Kickstarters, and, the usual. So, let's start. Let's start talking to Richard. So, why don't we start with the beginning? How about we start with, who are you?
So, I run Rattrap Productions. I've been doing it since 2005. Mostly I've done miniature games, and Rattrap has their hands in a bunch of different stuff. I've got the regular Rattrap games that I do, mostly around the pulp era, 45 Adventure, Broadsword Adventures, Fantastic Worlds. Basically, they're kind of like an RPG-like set miniature game, and you run with just a handful of models for those. That was the first thing that I personally put out, and since that started, I've also got a brand with another company called Sinister Laboratories that does a lot of historical miniature games. So right now I probably own and co-own well over 40 titles in the miniature games area.
Cool.
Then, being a gamer, there's always that, but what about doing this? So I've started working on some card games, some other projects, and the one card game, we have two card games out right now. One is Lost World Lunch, which is a very simple, easy to play, 2 to 6 player, Victorian hunters always chasing the dinosaurs. This kind of turns the tables, has the dinosaurs hunting the Victorian hunters. It's very family friendly, and in fact led to Rattrap probably at PAX Unplugged this year. We'll be debuting the Rattrap Family Games imprint, which will go as RFG, and we're gonna have a bunch of titles under that. Just simple card games, something that people can play with their families, with their kids, and not worry about really complex rules or any artwork that's not appropriate for kids. Even the dinosaur attacks are all very Looney Tunes comic-y, not graphic at all. So that's kind of what we had going on.
Cool. Well, why don't we talk about, where did Rattrap Productions come from?
So originally, I was doing work mostly as a demo person, but also on some of the titles. When the game Warzone was first held by Target Games, which was Heartbreaker Hobbies prior to that. And I started off just doing demos of Warzone, and then got involved with the company there, and was proofreading and doing play testing and demoing for Warzone, for Chronopia, and some other stuff they were working on before they ended up going under. And after that kind of went under, I didn't really do much for a while, but really had a couple of ideas floating around with 45 Adventure, with our Pulp era game, that there wasn't anything out there like it, and I wanted to do something similar to that Pulp feel. You could have the Shadow or the Spider or Doc Savage out on the board, and there were some companies doing miniatures already for that. Bob Murch's Pulp Figures was already out there, but rule sets were not very abundant, and that was what I started. That kind of led to a bunch of other stuff, and I have all the titles I have now. But really, it was my love of the pulp genre that started the whole Rattrap.
Cool. Joe, do you have one you want to throw in here? Oh, I was gonna.
Joe's gonna freeze there for a minute.
He is. It's apparently freezing. I'm guessing it's those storms we were having. Let me actually just do something that I may or may not help. I'll switch servers.
Oh, there we go. Everything froze on my. I'm asking a question. I'm like, I don't hear a response. I switched thing. I'm like, oh, that's why.
I switched. I don't know if that was it, because it could have been the storms too around the area, but I blame the weather. Anyway, you were asking a question.
Yeah, I was just saying, what actually got you into gaming originally?
Well, there was okay. This is going to be a really long, very bizarre story, but I'll try and keep it as short as possible. So, back in the early 1970s, I was a kid. Saturday morning cartoons, big thing. There was a kids show called The New Shmoo, and in it they had one of the episodes talk about this game, Dungeons and Dragons. And I'd always been a fantasy fan as a kid, so I saw this game on the show, and it was probably just a throwaway reference. I don't even remember what the episode was about, but that led to finding the actual game in real life. So really, my gaming started with RPGs, and I still have. I'll pull out for a little display here. My original box set.
Nice.
So yeah, that was my start. From there, discovered Gygax's chainmail rules. And we'd always wanted to have some battles in our RPGs, so we pulled the chainmail rules out, and was buying Ralph Partha figures, was buying whatever figure I could find at the time, and they were every different scale under the sun. I had everything from 20 millimeter up to 30 millimeter, all on the battlefield at the same time, because it was the only thing available. Then really it was just RPGs for quite a while, and I played everything TSR was putting out. I played Boot Hill, I played Top Secret, I played Gamma World, and after that, there was just a few years of playing that every so often, and then discovered Warhammer and Warzone around the early 90s, and that got me into miniatures games, which got me back into gaming in general, and you can kind of see the games over here to the side. So it's led to card games, board games, RPGs, all of it again.
Cool.
Very cool.
Now, your company does specialize mostly in miniatures. How did that kind of become the direction for focus, originally at least?
Originally, it was I loved miniature games. I love the visual display. Seeing a well set up board for a miniatures game, it's amazing. It's you see it, and you're just like, wow, I want to play on that. Even if you're playing an RPG, you want to play on this beautifully set up board. So I kind of saw those, and a bunch of the people I was hanging around with were miniature gamers at the time. But like I said, the miniature games I wanted to do, I wanted to have more of an RPG feel to them. So 45 Adventure, you're running with 1 to 5 models, and your heroes, when they get hurt, their ability starts to go down. They start to get weaker and not able to do as much. Whereas in the traditional miniature games at the time, if a model got hit, it either died or took a wound, and that was the extent of it. And I wanted something that told more of a story.
Cool. Now, I had seen a little bit of Desolate Front at PAX Unplugged last year, so I did want to talk to you a little bit about that one, because that seems to, at least you're taking your influence of miniatures in there, and I feel like it's an interesting setting, and it's like it hits the right amount of board game for like what I like in a miniatures game, because like I know there's the Spectrum. There's like the Warhammer people who are very just pure miniatures, and I like those like ones that are miniatures set board games more. That's my flavor, at least.
Yeah, no. So Desolate Front is an alternate World War I setting, and for us, at some point during the war, somebody decided to do something that opened a rift between realities, and you end up having all of this myth and magic and folklore start pouring into our world. And we have the traditional World War I factions. You have Imperial Germany, you have Britain and France as the Allied powers, Ottomans, Germany, Austria as the Central powers, and we just kind of started to build this backstory around what would the factions be, who would be there, and we wanted them to be able to work together as well as compete. So we kind of introduced that Cthulhu type entity that is out there and sending its own corruption in as its own faction that is really trying to take over everything. So British Germans might fight normally, but they'll gang together to take on the bigger evil at times, as long as it serves their own self-interest. And started work on the board game, and just wanted didn't want people to have to worry about a ton of miniatures, which I know the people who love miniature board games, they want to get 300 400 miniatures, however many they can cram into a box in there. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at it as the players are going to have 2 figures. They're going to have their scrapper, who's their melee guy, their shooting guy, the guy who's going to run in and take all the damage and be in the combat. And they're going to have their caster, who's really trying to close the gates that are letting the evil into the world.
Cool. Joe, you got a question?
No, go ahead and continue.
All right. So how long has Desolate Front been in works? That's a good question for that one.
So Desolate Front is probably going on about 18 months to 2 years of work right now.
Okay.
And probably still a bit more time of work on it. I'm very picky about what the final product will be, and we've got a really good intro scenario set up. I still feel like there's some places where it's a little too slow, where it kind of bogs down a little bit, and that's really the biggest issue with any kind of game development. Is you can have all these great concepts, but if everything flows well and it bogs down at one point, mm-hmm. then you just lose the momentum of the game. I've been helping a friend of mine work on a dungeon crawl card game, and he's got some great ideas in it, and you play it out, and then you get to combat, and it just suddenly becomes this drag of, slogging through, trying to get through combat so you can continue it. So he took it back to the drawing board to try and rework combat. And that was the same thing I was having with Desolate Front, is the combat runs smoothly. The card draw is running smoothly. I'm just kind of looking at the dice placement part of it and trying to make sure that is not bogging down with people not able to play quickly because they're suddenly trying to figure out where to put all their dice.
Okay. Now, there's a kind of follow-up to that, because you do a lot of projects. Is that like one of your longer projects, or do all of them have a kind of like life of evolution that long?
It depends on the project. The card games have a long cycle of production to get done, but that is more of an artwork issue than a game development issue. The board game, just because of the price involved, I don't want to put out something that's going to be subpar, and that's going to mean, I'll put off releasing it. I'm paying to get artwork done. I'm paying to get miniatures done. All the demo copies that I get done, paying to put all that in, but not rushing to put it out just to recoup that. I want it to be a good game when it finally comes out.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Anything, Joe? I make sure to give him opportunity because
I appreciate
yes.
it. It just I don't have anything off the top of my head.
Okay, well, just interrupt if you got something after I'm done, because I can keep going with questions for like ever. I'm good like that.
Yes, you are.
Okay, here's an interesting one. Do you ever use like a crowdfunding like Kickstarter for your stuff?
So Lost World Lunch did Kickstart. That was 2.5 years ago that I did that. And I'm actually going to be kickstarting some miniatures that will eventually be used for Desolate Front. But we kind of have a free-to-play miniatures game for the Desolate Front setting called Not All Blood Runs Red. And we're going to be doing some miniatures for that. I just got some samples in. Again, woo, fun stuff.
Neat.
Resin cast, so easy to modify and do whatever with. The sets I'm going to kickstart are Cultists and a High Priest, which I'm just trying to get them painted up right now, and then I'll do the Kickstarter for those probably, if I'm being honest, will be within the next 2 weeks. I'll have it up. And the nice thing about the Cultists and the High Priest is any kind of Cthulhu-esque game you can use them for. If you want to replace some of the cultists you have in Mansions of Madness, you could drop these in. If you're playing any kind of miniature game with cultists or wizards or anything like that, the figures can work. They're designed as World War I setting, but with some quick clipping and modifications, they can work for anything. Cool.
Now, here's an interesting question that this entire pretends to, is because you are very heavy into the miniature side of things, how do you manage pricing for a lot of things for that? Because that's something that I always think about, that like a lot of miniature games tend to be very expensive or get up there in price, and that seems like it's as much as there's a lot of difficulties in production of a lot of games, like being very heavily into that market seems like it's going to create an entire another quagmire.
It really is, which is another reason that Desolate Front has to be perfect before it comes out, because the cost of getting all the miniatures done will be up there. The ones I have are currently resin cast. So, this is done by a company called Trenchworks here in the U.S., and just getting the resin done, a resin figure done, without the sculpting part of it, but just the casting is, between $2 and $3 a miniature. So if you want to sell it, you're looking at exponentially higher pricing to do that. Because I'm going to crowdfund these, I can get away with, only going slightly above that, going at like $4 or $5 a miniature, whatever, and just trying to fund that production, which will hopefully bring enough in that it pays for the sculpts part of it. Then when it comes time to do the board game, and I'm getting mass produced here, then you're talking getting metal molds done, which run about $5,000 to $10,000 a mold, depending on the complexity of the figure. And that's before the spins and everything else. That is just getting the mold to do these. So you really have to, if you're going to do it, make sure you've got everything set up and planned, and what your pricing is going to be and what your costs are going to be, and you don't skimp on your funding goal, which unfortunately you see with a lot of Kickstarters. They put this great thing together, and they're getting momentum, and they like start adding more and more stretch goals and more stuff into it, and then the campaign ends and they send it out for production and realize they didn't bring enough money in.
Right, it's like all the extra stretch goals are nice, but if that ends up ruining your campaign, they're not worth it.
Correct. Yeah, and then you see stuff where, even big name companies, were doing a Kickstarter, getting the money for it, realizing it wasn't enough, starting another Kickstarter so they could take the funding for that to pay for the first one, and it becomes this cycle of getting further and further behind, to the point where, okay, we can't produce anything now.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's very interesting that when you went into because you obviously do a lot of the design too, did you have trouble getting into the company part of having a company?
Oh, I hate the company part. Honestly, if I could just have somebody else running that part of it, I'd be content. We were talking before we went live here. I'm dealing with email issues right now because I'm trying to consolidate all my domains in one spot, and as soon as I move one domain, anything associated with that is now suddenly screwed up. So, we have these storms coming through. I'm afraid power's going to go out. Power goes out. I can't say anything to you because my email on my mobile device isn't working because I've suddenly moved everything and getting that all set up. So, technical aspect of it, the bookkeeping aspect of it. 4 times a year, I am online, filling out paperwork, sending tax information in, sending taxes in, paying the sales tax, getting all that stuff out. And it's just not exciting. But it's just part of what you have to do.
Yep. Now, do you end up going to a lot of conventions? Because that's kind of where I kind of ran into your company.
So we do PAX Unplugged every year. We started with it the first year. We had a small 10x10 booth. We expanded to 10x20 this past year, and we're going to have 10x20 again this year. I've done Gen Con before. I did Gen Con for 2 years in a row. But, Gen Con is at the time when I was going, didn't have this new developer section that they have now, where all the new developers are kind of in one alley, so people walking down that alley know they're looking at new stuff and we'll try stuff out. So Gen Con just got way too expensive for doing that. I still go to Gen Con, and when I have something new that I want to start showcasing, they have the really good first exposure hall at Gen Con, and I've shown a lot of stuff that's been in progress there to get feedback and just find out what other people think of how the game plays, or just the concept in general. So do Gen Con. I have a partner for some of the stuff that I do, who I think you talked to at PAX, because that was Bruno.
Bruno was the one I ended up talking to. Yes.
Right. So Bruno was just at Origins this year, and he plans on next year we'll actually have maybe not a booth presence, but try and have some games and stuff running in the game halls. And then other than PAX Unplugged, there's a bunch of local conventions that I've done on and off over the years, depending again on whether or not there's something new coming out. Out in the Lancaster area, the HMGS runs their Historicon Cold War's Fall in, which are mostly historical miniature based, but I'll run the pulp games that I have at those. I've also run some post-apocalyptic games. I did a game for a company called Brigade Games called Atomic Cafe that is kind of a 1950s post-apocalypse, kind of like Fallout it is, but that was fun.
Cool. So at least keeping, I would say at least keeping busy, but I mean you're keeping busy regardless.
Yes, there's always so much to do.
I mean, I guess that's better than having nothing to do.
Yeah. I mean, at least at night when I'm sitting around, I'm not going, well, what am I going to do? I've got, let's see, I can work on writing this, I can work on designing this, I can get the graphics done for this, I can do paperwork for this. So yeah, there's always a list of things to do.
Joe, do you have anything to add at the moment, or?
No, because my computer completely froze during that. So.
Oh, that's wonderful! Yay, more technical issues.
That's why I put it there. Like, hey, is anyone else having freezing issues at the moment?
Not apparently as bad as you.
Yeah.
Minor, very minor. So yeah. All right, let me see here. I think I hit most of the topics I went to. So. Other than, let's say, like, continue working on Desolate Front, what are the major things coming out this year, actually? That you're... All
right, so this year we're going to kickstart the miniatures, and then I have 2 card games that are come out at PAX Unplugged under the Family Games imprint. We're going to have Late to Class and Aliens Are Real. Late to Class is a push your luck kind of, trying to see all your friends on the way to class without getting late to class. And then Aliens Are Real is everyone playing that Weekly World News reporter trying to prove that aliens are real, but trying to outscoop the other players and get it first. These are going to be card-only games, so, again, very quick, very easy to play, small decks, nice reasonable price point between $12 and $15. So something you just pick up, toss in a bag, carry with you, which is what I want the family card games to be. And then on top of that, I've gotten involved with a new spin-off that is called the Bardic College, which is going to be an informational resource for game masters for RPGs.
Cool.
So that is something that just started, and I may have some info about it at PAX. Kind of trying to figure out whether or not we're going to have enough things together for that in time. But yeah, my love of RPGs has been coming on strong lately, so...
That comes to an interesting question, actually. Would you plan to work on an RPG, like, under Rattrap? Like something like... something that we're going to talk about today. That Modifius did a Fallout miniatures game, and then they did an RPG related to it. Would you think about doing that yourself?
I will say that I had a recent 8-hour flight over the summer where I jotted down some notes for a potential RPG setting for Desolate Front that would have the players teaming up to take on the bigger evil with some interesting options. You could play as a bridge troll or a Valkyrie, or looking at folk tales, you could play as Puss in Boots, but set in a World War I setting.
That is an interesting one.
So yes, definitely, it's something that I'm mulling over. It's whether or not I try and build it off, the existing D20 system that everybody's so familiar with and so easy to pick up, or I try and customize it more and have it as my own kind of setting, rule set, and haven't decided which way I'm going to go on it yet. So that's early stages. We'll see where that goes.
I will say, as someone who has designed a role-playing game and tried to do their own dice system, that is incredibly difficult to get the balance right.
That is absolutely true, and I found that with the miniature games as well. Getting that with miniature games, it's getting a points to dice balance. So how many points is a die roll worth? With miniature games, with RPGs, it's what is a good target hit number, and what should your save numbers be? How brutal do you want the system to be? Do you want players to really feel the threat of any attack they make, or do you want to make it more heroic, where they can stand there toe to toe, swinging and taking damage for several rounds?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree on that. I think that's like one of the things that is almost a core to a lot of role-playing games. Is like it's very easily like the system can be less brutal, but then you could have a really brutal dungeon master or game master. It's just like murders the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, I've played in D&D games where the DM felt it was his job to kill the players.
So have we. Well,
yeah.
Ours was a Pathfinder game that happened in.
Yeah,
but I mean, to me, that's not what role-playing games are about. To me, it's about crafting a communal story. The DM should make it a challenge for the players, but his goal should not be like, okay, I'm going to make sure that they are absolutely going to die unless they're lucky.
Yeah, we had a GM that pretty much said, make sure to always have a backup character.
Yep. We don't play with them anymore.
Like one guy who died, he had 10 different characters.
It was bad.
At one point, because he kept dying and dying and dying.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't fun anymore. And there's no original people from the mission that we started. So why are any of us still doing this?
Yeah, no, I hate that.
Like a couple, for getting back to it, like a couple deaths here or there might make a good story, but like pushing it all the way forward, it's just having it as the thing is just, and trying to find that balance of you want threat in something, but you don't want it to be too much of a threat. It's always always an interesting thing.
Yeah, no, I played in a campaign where I went through 3 characters, and it was just like, why am I even doing this anymore? Like, I really want to develop the character, but I can't. And, I know that I'm going to show up in the next game, and there's a 50-50 chance he's going to die. Which is, again, one of the reasons I started working with the Bardic College, is to help game masters and players, start to develop the skills to work together to craft that story.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I think that's something that I've crafted over the last couple of years. I've had a lot of years as a DM, and only the last few do I feel like I've reached at least a decent goal of that,
Yeah.
And
it's not easy.
No, you can get into it that even if you don't feel like it's players versus DM, you can still not recognize as well that you're working with someone to craft the story as much.
Right.
And, and so then when you're trying to push your own story, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I've hit most of the major questions I was going to do. Do you have anything else? I think that's... if we're still not breaking down with technical issues.
I don't know if you can hear me at the moment. I think I may have froze again.
I can hear you. I don't know if you can see us.
Okay. Because everything's frozen in Discord for me.
Okay. Technical issues.
All right. Gotta love them.
It's good on my end, and that's the most important end, and that's all that matters. There have been freezing issues, not nearly as bad. Anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty good for now. I can't think of any other major questions to throw up at you.
Maybe once we are done with the interview, we can switch areas again.
Okay, sure. Because we are still getting a few issues here and there.
Okay.
So, anyway, but, hey, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Is there any, like, last things you want to kind of shout out for now, or,
No, I mean, I got to pitch all my stuff I wanted to pitch, and, you gave me lots of openings and nice softballs I could knock out of the park there, so that was perfect.
Great. Well, it was great having you on. Great learning about your stuff. We'd love to have you on again other times, just if you have something like that you want to talk about.
Hey, maybe closer to PAX we can sit down and talk, and I'll show you some of the new stuff.
Cool. Sounds great.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, I guess we'll let you run off, and we'll hit back into the rest of the show then.
All right. Sounds great. Talk to you later.
Yep.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Thanks for coming.
All right, let me throw us over to the appropriate...
Maybe we can try switching areas again. Because I don't know why, but my side keeps freezing the hell up.
Yeah. Oh, did I have that switched off? Let me switch servers again. I'll switch to West. Let's try West.
Yeah.
Give me a second here just to
no problem.
Do it, because apparently I think the other day we did something different the other week, and I had to switch these around. There I go. Hey, I exist now. Just making sure the video works.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I kept cutting out there, and that's why I was just like, well, it's hard to ask questions. Like, I'd have to start listening to the stream to catch up on what he was saying.
Yeah, you apparently had it really bad over there. Why don't you
it
start...
freeze for like a minute and a half straight.
There we go. Hey, we're readjusted properly. Hey, why don't you start leading us then into Magic Arena?
Let me just bring up Arena on my end so I can actually talk about this intelligently.
That sounds like a great idea. No, go ahead.
Hopefully that won't cause more freezing.
Hey, who knows at this point, I can say, hopefully not.
Okay, I'm in it.
Excellent.
Okay, are we live again?
Oh, I never switched us off.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know. I adjusted on the fly.
Okay.
Unless we have to switch full video, I just run with it. It's pretty easy to switch over.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, they've done some updates in Arena. A lot of updates. They're officially using the new Mulligan rule all over.
Okay.
I forget what that one's called. It's
London Mulligan. Because they were doing it for the drafts of the last set. Okay. But now it's completely for all sets. Still not loving it. They also introduced a new feature. It's it's set mastery is what they've added in now. Set mastery. Okay.
So with set mastery, you normally have to purchase the mastery pass, which costs, this one at least costs 3,400 gems. Okay. Which the only way to get gems is by playing drafts and stuff and earning them by winning or paying money. With the mastery pass, you gain experience by playing games, which puts you up in levels, which unlocks new things. Okay. They did start out with giving you just some experience. So if you they had a free promo code for it. It lets you go on the first track of set mastery rewards. I don't think it'll let you go to the mastery pass rewards. But with the first track of the mastery rewards, you can earn a bunch of packs, basically.
Okay.
And you get also a special little pet, which is a rare elemental cat.
All right.
He sits on the board.
Okay.
It's just a cute little thing that's animated that sits on the board. But if you like actually buy the pass, you unlock special. You unlock the cat. You unlock I think it's Chandra as a avatar you can use. Special special card sleeves, and then also you can get packs, coins, gems, special art cards, and such as you go up in levels that way.
Okay.
So it's interesting. It's more spending of money.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I felt like they probably would have done something like that at some point, just because of the nature of being online and then also attempting to hit that market. I mean, I'm sorry, video games, it's very hard to have a video game that does not get affected by the spending market.
Well, yeah, and especially since it is a free download.
It is a free download.
So you're not paying to get the game. There's a lot of free stuff you can do in the game without spending money.
Yeah.
So they do need to encourage some expenditure to, keep developing stuff for it. I can understand that.
Yeah, no, I guess it I can't complain because it is a free-to-play game, basically, is kind of where I'm going to go with that one there, Yeah,
I mean, they have to make money somehow. If you had to buy the game and buy all the cards, like, you had no way to get free cards, then, yeah, adding this would be an issue. But considering that you can get a lot of free cards, you can earn a lot of coins, which you can buy packs with and stuff like that are absolutely free.
Mm-hmm.
Having this added thing, if you want to, go that way, spend the money, or if you're lucky enough to win a bunch of gems doing tourneys, you can, get the passes and get a lot of extra rewards.
Yeah. So
it's more incentive, and I can, like I said, I can completely understand it, and I can't really complain about it. Yeah. But it definitely it puts an extra interesting thing into the game.
Yeah. No. Sounds like they've definitely taken it in an interesting direction. So. All right.
Agreed.
Anything else you want to hit on about this entire thing? Have you had some experience then with M20? What do you think about that, I guess?
I haven't gotten to play a lot with the cards. They just released them, I think, earlier this week. Okay. They just started releasing stuff. So I haven't gotten to explore too much with those yet. But I can, once, probably by next weekend, I can go a little more in depth on that end.
Okay, cool. All right, how about we hit up the next topic then? I want to talk about this one. I just wanted to talk about briefly anyway. I'm probably not going to even throw up an image for it. I just wanted to mention that the Fallout Wasteland RPG, the actual the full book, it's out now. The PDF's $16, and it's an actual Fallout RPG. Granted, it's made to work along with the miniatures game, but it's an RPG nonetheless. We did talk about it a little bit previously. I think it sounds like they're going to plan to do more, but I at least wanted to mention that. Unless you,
yeah, I think it looks really interesting. I'd love to test it at some point.
It's true. I'd be interested to how much you could test it without the miniatures. I remember we were reading up on it, and it sounds like you don't necessarily need it. It's based on the miniatures game, but I think it works best with it, it sounds like. But I guess it's the same thing of, like, you know, shooting in a RPG and, like, you know, 3D mapping without a map. You know, it's more of like a, yeah, we can sort of imagine that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, some games are, or just certain fights and stuff are better if you have some kind of map to really understand where everything is.
Cool. Alright, so yeah, I just wanted to quickly bring that up more than anything, as that's, you know, related to a topic we did talk about previously. Age of Dirt. Let's talk about that. This is a weird one. You know,
it reminds me of another game that we've played.
Which one does it remind you of?
What is it? Stone Age?
Stone Age. Yeah, I can see it reminding you of Stone Age. Definitely, I can see the connection to that there.
Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, this kind of looks like Stone Age.
Well, the interesting thing they say about it is it's a game of uncivilization. So I guess it's the opposite direction of Stone Age, where you're like trying to build like your civilization, your people. So it's a worker placement. It is a worker placement game. So yeah, you're chief of a prehistoric clan, and you're trying to become the best in the valley. You collect resources and build crazy inventions. You know. And you have to hope to have great leadership, you know, and great workers that are reliable, because apparently your workers aren't always reliable too, which is an entire thing too. So that's interesting. Yep. You send out your clan members, you call them back in order to get those resources, you spend them to do the various things you can do in the game, as most worker resource kind of gaining games are.
Right.
And you also have to, like, you know, have your workers return. You send them through the passage. Basically, I guess, a tower for meeples that have flaps inside that try to keep your workers from making to the bottom. And you can use drums to rescue them from the passage. There also might be predators, which means you need spears. That's kind of an interesting, weird dynamic that your people can be dumb enough to get stuck. Basically, it's like you have to drop them, and it's like, did they get stuck?
Oops.
Mm-hmm.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
And you have to get to 10 victory points. You know, this was very... I think it's like... It is very worker placement, very Stone Age, very Caverna, like the nature of building the society and developing it. But I like the idea that, like... maybe you're the only smart one in the entire group. So you're trying to work with a bunch of idiots, trying to, like, your workers are dumb.
No, a circle. What?
What's a circle? Oh my god. The big round, the sun, it's a circle. The sun. Oh!
I should stare into it?
Let me look at it and find out. It's a circle, right? Oh god.
I can't see anymore.
Yep. That sounds about right. So I guess that's why this game kind of looks interesting. And I guess the idea of the uncivilization, too. That they took something that is tested and put it in a different direction. Which I guess is one of the things that I like to, when I'm talking about games and stuff, is something a little different. So... it is in work. Let me see here. The rules are, in fact, online, it looks like, already. So, though it's coming out in October, you can see the rules now, read into them. It's going to be $50, which for a worker placement game, not too bad. Definitely not too bad. So, yep. Check it out if you're interested and anticipate it coming later this year. let's talk about Pacific Rim, because it's a board game. Now, the thing about this, which I didn't realize until a little later, is the company that's putting this out is the same company that does because they advertised it. I think you talked about this.
The Labyrinth adventure game.
The Labyrinth adventure game and
the card game. Jim Henson's Labyrinth card game, and also Hunger Games.
And I think it was the
Tales of Equestria, Ogres, and
that's the My Little Pony one. I think yes.
So
they do it. They do a lot of, and the Highlander game. They do a lot of, I think, licensed games. They're a licensed game company, Riverforce. So, Pacific Rim Extinction. They have. It's an interesting one because it's a board game miniatures game, but it's leaning much more on the miniatures side. I would say this one is. I would say this is akin to the Star Wars miniatures board game that Fantasy Flight does, which I don't think we've talked a lot about, but that's one that you can buy more miniatures that each have their own abilities to do it. And it's very similar that it's like one side versus second side. That one, I've seen it played before, that miniatures game, where it's basically like buying more miniatures gives you more options. And this is the same way. Buying more miniatures gives you either more monsters or more robots. It's the exact same thing, and I think they're trying to recapture it with Pacific Rim. Now, the thing about this is if you look at the, miniatures and stuff, these are really high-quality ones, but they're charging a lot for stuff beyond the starter set. It's $35 for another, anything, you know? For it looks like for a big old monster and stuff. Yeah, these are really well detailed. I will not argue about that. So, and you get two things for the original $60 to set it up. But again, it fits into this point in time for me. Because again, it is supposed to be not a purely miniatures game. But, so because they have a big old 3x2 foot poster mat and the $60 starter. And they of course have the two. They have the miniatures, which seem to be two miniatures: the Gypsy Avenger and Strikehorn. Then they have all the action cards, the objective cards. Ranger cards, upgrade cards, mutation cards, scenario cards. They don't have a lot of those cards, but they have a lot of items.
6 3D skyscrapers.
Well, it's unlike this is the unique point which I think separates it from that Star Wars one I was talking about, where you just have like a space map. Is you set up a terrain, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it has 2D. 4 2D terrain tiles, 6 2D building hexes, and stuff. So there are flat parts to it too, but the skyscrapers are 3D.
That's kind of neat, though, too. I mean, again, this is a type of miniatures game that we don't talk about a lot, because this is like on that weird cusp in between like a true miniatures game, like I would say, like an in-depth one, like a Warhammer. And then, like, the ones that we more deal with. And, again, like, unfortunately, I think this is really cool, because this is, like, up my alley for the kind of things I like, giant monsters and robots and stuff.
Of course.
But, like the Star Wars game, which is really cool, but requires you, if you want to, like, have a lot of options to spend a lot of money, it's not necessarily in my wheelhouse either. To something that I would actually get. But it's cool. And if this is the kind of game you'd like, it's for pre-order now. You probably only need to get the starter pack to get it. $60. And those miniatures are really nice looking for $60, and like the stuff looks really cool. So I mean, I'm curious as to how many players it could get up to. Let me see if I can figure that out. Because I'm assuming...
Probably to expand it, you have to buy more...
Yeah, because it sounds like... Because they do talk about teams. They say 2 to 6 players. So, yeah. I'm assuming that you would need to get more miniatures to get it. Because you start with, like, 2. And you can play with 2 players. And then you get...
And right now, there's, I think, 4 extra miniatures you can buy.
Yeah, which gets up to 6 players.
Yep.
Again, that'd be $200 to get 6 players.
Yeah, there's 2 more kaiju and 2 more Jaegers.
Yeah. And they're all for pre-order, available at a future date, they say. But I don't know if it's an interesting spot. I'd say in my thought pattern on it. So,
I want the adventure game for Labyrinth.
You mean the RPG?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks cool.
It's like they make it look very like an actual like old book or something. So it's got good style to it.
Oh yeah, well it looks like I think the book that you read was reading in the movie.
I think that's true. I think that's on purpose so that it looks like the Labyrinth book from the prop one from the movie and stuff. So
and the dice have owls on them for the ones, I believe.
Yes. If you actually need I guess it comes with it.
Yeah, if you get.
Oh, it's got a little.
It comes with dice.
Oh, it's got a hole in the actual book in the design.
Yeah,
that they fit in. That they fit in. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right, you kind of sold me on that one. Anyway, we weren't talking about.
I know. But Labyrinth.
I know. That's also available at a future date. So, I mean, they've got a lot of stuff that's coming out. I think I am in the future date section, anyway, of their store. The pre-orders. So, yeah. Anyway, all coming soon. Let's talk about our last topic then, and then end up to our normal segments. I wanted to talk a little about Deep Blue. This is a game by the Days of Wonder, the people that do Ticket to Ride and all the similar games. And it's about diving. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's the really easy way to describe it before anything. But it's a board game, board/card game. It's a push your luck engine building family game where you dive for wealth basically, and other benefits. So it's sort of like fortune exploration kind of thing. You have to collect the right crew of divers, sailors, archaeologists to race to wreck sites to find the best stops to dive from, scout the seas, discover new wrecks, and you want to take risks to do it, to be the best diver. It is its own game. It has a board, little plastic boats, crew cards, treasure chests, player boards, which it looks like you can have up to 5 players because it's got 5 player boards.
I'm on their Days of Wonder's main site. Yeah, 5 player boards. 2 to 5 players, about 45 minutes, age 8 and up.
So it is a younger audience though too. But I mean, this is an interesting looking one, definitely. The kind of the look of the board is very interesting. That it's got the look of like a overview of an area you might be exploring by sea.
Yes. Well, that's the whole point. Is you're looking for wreckages under the sea to explore and get stuff from.
I know.
Under the sea.
I was going to make that joke too, but you got to it first. So congratulations. There's a crab somewhere that's happy with it.
Yes, and there's 7 Captain Log scenario cards.
Which is, I guess, I assume that's like extra scenarios that you can use to add changes to your game.
Yeah.
Which is never a bad thing. Hey, I got it up quickly. It looks like a really good game. Only $50, so it's not a bad price. You can download the rules now, so you can definitely check them out. Is it available now? October. Game is available October. And with Days of Wonder, I always like their stuff. I mean, again, like...
We'll probably get to see a demo of it in PAX.
Yes, I'm assuming Days of Wonder are probably going to be there. I think they were there last year.
Last time. Yeah, I think they were there last year.
It's hard for me to remember. There was a lot of companies.
I'm pretty sure I talked to them at one point.
You might have been the one to talk to them. Excellent. But, yeah, so Deep Blue, very kid-friendly, looks cool, seems like an interesting kind of game, and, you know, a nice press your luck mechanic is always fun, because it's like, yes, you're going for victory, but it also depends on how much you're feeling lucky. And so it's like, you're not really necessarily doing something to someone else, you're doing it to yourself. By feeling that you're lucky when you're not, which I rarely am.
Stop doing it to yourself.
Too bad. But that's it for our regular, topics of the week. I think it's time for us to move on to our regular segments. And so, of course, to start out our regular segments, we start out with our deeper discussion, which I will report we'll have probably a deeper discussion hopefully next week. I got a copy of Everdale in from Brenda, so I'll be hopefully talking about that with folks next week. Anyway, Kickstarter Korner. Joe, do you have a Kickstarter for us this week?
I do. Give me 1 second. It is in chat. It is Weird Alchemy. It's a pocket-sized madcap creature-denying card game. It has 29 days to go, so it just started. It's at almost half its goal already.
Cool.
It's at 1,176, and it's a $2,500 goal. So it's almost halfway there. Has 89 backers. Basically, some weird things happened with some sorcerers doing alchemy and created some very strange monsters like Cthulhu or Valzerker or Gelatinous Bunny.
Not the Gelatinous Bunny.
Yes.
We're doomed.
Or a Werecarrot. You don't want to turn into a carrot man, do you?
No one wants to turn into a carrot man.
But the whole point of the game is to pass off the weird creatures to your opponents. So when accident cards come up, whatever monsters you have in hand, that's when the bad things happen to you. And you actually want to end the game with the least amount of points.
Okay, cool.
So every 2 cards in hand equal 1 point. Monster cards equals 2 points. And monster... 0. Okay. So yeah, so basically it's pass the hot potato.
Pass the hot potato.
So it looks interesting. The artwork is really funny and well done. So check it out. I think it looks like a really cool game. And the pledges for the game start at $9 to get the game.
Nice.
So not bad. $12 or more gets you the game and the special edition big box, including the first expansion. And honestly, anything above that is more for if you're looking to get multiple copies. Like $29 gets you 5 copies of Weird Alchemy. And $49 gets you 5 copies of the expansion and the game.
Well, I think those are supposed to be for like
stores more. But I'm just saying, or if you're doing Christmas presents.
Hey, if this is within your idea of Christmas present, then yes.
But it's incredibly cheap, but it looks really good.
Yeah, no, it's got some really great art. I will definitely agree on that one. Kind of neat.
Yeah, I think that's why it's back so well, because it's like, hey, pledge $9 and get the game.
Yep.
Or $12 and get the game with the expansion. That you can't beat that.
No, that's very true. So,
yeah. So, what do you got for us?
I have for you one that is done by Onyx Path. Hey, so it's not like anything crazy. It's Trinity Continuum Aberrant. Why? Because I like Aberrant a lot. I was talking about Aberrant when Trinity Continuum came out, which is basically when Onyx Path decided, similar to what they did with the World of Darkness games, and bring out like their V20, their 20th anniversary series, which they are still doing. I don't know how many, like with Vampire, I don't know like the entire details of what they're planning on doing. But when they brought out Trinity as the base thing, I was interested to see, because that does talk about all three of it. Well, technically Trinity is one of the three, but finally we're kind of seeing it here with Trinity Continuum, the Aberrant one of this. So this is the Aberrant book in particular. It is funded. You can get the PDF and the preview manuscript for $25. For $45, you can get the Aberrant PDF and the core book PDF also. And some, they say, cost print-on-demand options. I'm not as sure as to what those are, what that means, but they talk about them for the $45 one. $55 will get you the PDF and the hardcover book. And $95 gets you a hardcover book of both the Continuum and the Aberrant book, plus PDFs.
I wouldn't mind if, once we do the Sunday schedule that we've been talking about forever, doing like a session or two of Aberrant, because it is a fun system.
Yes. I am not good at making games for it, but that's because I'm not good at making like superhero stories as much. That's no fault of the system. That's all fault of mine. So that's what I have to say about that.
Well, hey, I mean, yeah, I know you didn't run that one either, but there was the one God game that we did in that system that was
really
interesting, because you can go off in different ways to tell a story in that system.
Oh, I'm sure. Easily. No, I'm sure I could come up with something for like a 2-3 shot, but it's sort of like I guess it's just a genre I'm not as good at writing right now. I write mostly fantasy when I'm doing things like that, with a little bit of sci-fi. But no, if you're unfamiliar with Aberrant, it's basically superheroes. It's another superhero system. It's the idea that the Aberrant characters, the Novas that they are, their exposure to like a cosmic energy across the planet with this one space station basically exploded, allowed quantum powers basically in this new evolution of humanity. Granted, it's not the only evolution of humanity that's going to come up, and unfortunately, the Nova powers are a catch-22, as they are slowly corrupting those that have them, kind of thing, slowly driving them mad. Some embrace that and become supervillains. Others try to fight against that and become heroes. It's just in the entire storyline of Trinity. Eventually, most Novas succumb to it and become, well, the monsters that they were slowly mutating into. And then that's why, I think the later one, it's the entire idea is there's a psychic versus Nova war going on in space in the last one. And the one before that's Pulp, which is basically, I think it's called Adventure, which is a Pulp game, which we might see that one Kickstarter too, which I have very little experience with that one when it comes to this 3 games together. But the Aberrant one, it's up now. I would suggest it's my favorite superhero one, as one I've played Aberrant and Mutants and Masterminds. And I like Mutants and Masterminds, but Aberrant's my favorite just because I feel it's much more of a White Wolf system, and a White Wolf system pertains better to this sort of game. I feel like, rather than the D20 system that Mutants and Masterminds is. Not that both aren't good games. I like both. But anyway, there's my 2 spits about that. But anyway, it's up on Kickstarter now. It is funded. So, I mean, it's if you want to get it on the funding, it's got 23 days to go. Anyway.
Cool.
Let's talk about our week in tabletop. Because, we had a week and we played some tabletop. Let's see, last Saturday, did we do something?
We did not do anything. I had plans.
You had plans, and I ended up not doing anything either. And then on Sunday, we did Godforged.
Yes.
Because I found that it was on Tabletop Simulator, and I wanted to test it out some more. Play a bit more of it. We got our attempts to try it out and review it for Atlas Games, and getting a couple more chances to dive deeper into it again were fun. It continues to be an interesting game. It is a quicker game than I would think, is what I have to say about it. Because when you get the ball rolling on that, it is very easy to murder each other. So it is definitely a much quicker game than I expect for it. And there were some mechanics that we were bad at remembering, even though I had talked about them in the game. But,
Yes.
It's like Lindsay was building up a billion of the little cube things, and she had a lot of stuff she could probably use them for. She just didn't remember she could use those for them, and you didn't remember, because both of you had a lot. I was spending them.
Yeah.
Keeping me alive. And other than that, I don't think we had any role-playing together this week. I played on the podcast game, which I do, which the person hasn't announced it, but, formally, but I can say what we did is we encountered a dragon who was a master of illusions who'd taken over a city. So that was fun. We ran away from that. We realized that me and one of the other characters have horrible catch-22 things. I have a cursed item, which isn't too bad of a curse. It just makes it that when something damages me, I have a chance of vomiting up poison uncontrollably. And it's a code,
poison.
So it can hit both my friends and enemies. So that's the thing about that. But yeah, so that's the entire curse, and I don't want to get rid of it. Which they keep trying to take it from me. Now they'll take it from my cold, dead hands. Curse. And the other person just has a horrible object of, like, a monkey's paw, basically. That's what they have, is they can draw a card for a wish. For your greatest desire. And so I think we eventually got to a small town, actual civilization, and that was fun. So we didn't do a whole lot in that game, but it was fun. I enjoy playing that character. So eventually people will know more about Dorak Bonemaker of the clan Bonemakers, even though he became a bard and not a soldier like his father did. Mm-hmm. And his father accepted the barddom, and as long as he was thinking he was going to go into the College of Battle. But guess what college I went into? Lore all the way. I am Bard Nerd. Dwarven Bard Nerd. Yep. Dwarven Bard Nerd. With hardly cursor.
Hello, Dwarven Bard Nerd.
So yes, that was our adventures. It was an interesting one so far. And I think that's all the stuff we had in Tabletop last week, right?
Yeah.
So time for our very final segment, which is Ask the Table, which is if you out there have a question for us, you can throw it up in chat right now. You, of course, could send it to us, email it to us at discussingtabletop@yahoo.com, and I will have us throw it up here on the show if it's appropriate, or answer you directly if it's there. You can ask us questions on various other medium. You can throw it up onto our Twitters, at which point we will answer to the best of our ability, and or throw it up on the show if it seems appropriate to throw up on the show here on my Discord channel, which you can either put it up onto one of the appropriate channels on the Discord server, or message me directly if you just want to ask me personally or something like that. So a lot of ways that you could reach us, or comments of this YouTube channel. A lot of ways you can reach us questions, and not just about tabletop, anything that you feel is appropriate ask us a question about, you can go ahead. Nerdy topics, things like that, we accept them. Again, most questions, we answer them where they're at, so they tend not to be ending up here. I have been thinking about, because I've been having a large discussion of questions with a person on the Vampire server and World of Darkness server, because he's got a lot of questions about the World of Darkness that maybe I'll come up with like a special video where I just, go over them in person. But that would be a special stream if I do that. Period.
Right.
Anyway. But, hey, thanks, Joe. Thanks for joining me.
Yep. As always.
Yep, and once again, thank you to Richard for joining us and talking about his work at Rattrap Productions. It was great to learn about it and hear all about it. We'll be back next week. I have not a confirmed guest for next week, so I will let you know, Joe, and you people out there, if I confirm one ahead of time. Otherwise, it might just be us for a week. It's been a few weeks, even like a month or two, since it's just been us. So we'll see. There's a few more guests on the docket, but hard to. I can't. Coming up soon. But yeah. All right. Again, thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and we'll hopefully see you next week. And both of us will probably see you tomorrow.
Yes.
For tabletop too. But bye, everyone.
Bye.